Hey, good day everyone, and welcome to Microsoft 365 Live 2022. And my name is Satish, and we would be discussing more around how to leverage auto attendant and call queue, a complete functionality with reporting, manager view, how the manager can look into who is taking all calls, all those topics today in this session. Firstly, we'd like to thank all our sponsors. Without them, the event would have not been successful. We would also like to thank the organizer and the event participants for joining in to this all event altogether. Now, my topic is how we would be able to leverage up the auto attendant and call queue feature functionality to have a basic contact center experience. Organizations, users, or companies which do not require to have a full-fledged contact center solutions like Genesis, Five Nines, or any other kind of a contact center solution, you can always leverage the auto attendant and call queue. So we'll look at how we would configure each individual auto attendant and call queue. My name is Satish, and I work as a Microsoft Unified Communication Architect at Softa. So something about me. So I have my own blog space, which is networkingtalks.wordpress.com. And something about me more is I have been into this industry for almost 9+ years, having an experience with complete Microsoft technology in terms of collaborations and communications. My expertise comes in countries like India, China, Middle East, where the telco regulations are most strict for Microsoft Teams or Skype for Business on-premises implementations. I constantly work with all the global organizations across, and also specifically with the federal and the state government in the States and Canada in implementing their Microsoft Teams complex telephony solutions. I am based in Toronto, in Canada, so you can always reach out to me in case if you are in the Northern America region as well, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter as well. I'll share my LinkedIn, Twitter, and email address contact towards the end. Something about my organization, Softal. So, Softal is a Microsoft partner with the advanced calling specializations. One of the basic requirement for providing up the managed solutions in the States and in the Northern America regions. We are a solution partner for modern work. Most of our solution is more based on the bot capability, building bots for frontline workers, for healthcare workers, for all of them. We do a lot of integrations with various kind of a contact center platforms. We do our integrations based on teams development capabilities, all those things. We also monitor the team's telephony solutions, the voice solutions, and provide both the admin and the end user trainings as well. We have been into this industry for almost 30 years, 3 decades for contact center services, and then almost a decade now for supporting the Microsoft technologies. So here is a peek view into the agenda, what we would be discussing, what we would be looking into. Uh, like I mentioned in the start, we would be looking into more of the auto attendant and call queue configurations, how you can leverage it and save some cost instead of going towards the full-fledged contact center services. We'll look how we would be configuring each parameter for auto attendant and then for one for the call queue as well, and what all configurations are available, what's coming, what's difference, what's the roadblocks, all those things. We'll also have a quick view of how the experience would look like for a manager when they are added into a call queue experience as a complete team. We'll also look at the admin experience from the team's administrative point of view, how the administrators would manage the whole configurations of the contact center. Lastly, we'll also look at reporting, which was one of the demanding requests from all the customers across the globe that we need to have a complete reporting mechanism for auto attendant and call queues, and which is now readily available in Power BI, and more about reporting what's coming in into the Teams Admin Center or tag. So with the auto attendant and call queues, this can be utilized with all the three options, be it the Microsoft Calling Plan, Direct Routing, or Operator Connect platform, both Operator Connect or Teams Phone Mobile. It supports all the three platforms as well. It supports your dynamic caller ID. You can manipulate the caller ID for the user accounts while you're making the outbound caller ID or outbound calls using the call queue. So even that dynamic caller ID capabilities is supported. So dynamic caller ID is a feature functionality wherein your agents don't want to display their individual DID or individual phone number and want to display a board line number, something like that. Um, Agents can then utilize the caller ID for any of the auto attendant call queues or the board line numbers while making the outbound calls. Then how manager can monitor the call queues, how many agents are available in the queue all the time, how much calls were dropped or how much calls were missed, the calls went to voicemails, how the voicemail configurations can look like, can the call be escalated to the managers? We'll look at all those things. And lastly, like we mentioned, in terms of the reporting, because that's one of the critical functionality when you are utilizing a contact center solution altogether. So let's look into deep dive into our demo environment altogether. So first we'll go into the licensing, because licensing requirement is one of the prime thing for any user account or for having this functionality up and running. So from the licensing perspective, this is a manager account that I'll showcasing here. And so the licensing perspective, it's much more simplified. If you would have attended my last session yesterday, which was more around how we can provide the PSTN capabilities. So I have a domestic and international calling plan. I have an E5 license, which includes my Microsoft Teams phone standard licenses. This licensing requirement is for the manager, and similar licensing requirement is also available for your agent. They also need to have a Microsoft. So now the demo that I'm providing here is on the Microsoft calling plan. So here, if you look at it, my users have the domestic and international calling plan, and then they have the E5 license queue, which includes your phone systems, phone Teams standard license altogether. Now, coming to your auto attendant and call queue. So this is my call queue. The only license that I have assigned to the call queue is Microsoft Teams phone resource account. So resource account license. Why is it required? It is required so that you can associate your call queues if you are nesting a call queue under a call queue. So you're nesting a call queue in that scenario. And resource account license is also required while you are having your phone numbers or the DIDs associated with the resource account. So that's the two time when you're required to have your resource account license. Similarly, let's look at the license assigned to my auto attendant. So here again, the auto attendant is assigned and associated with the phone resource account type. If you have any questions, please put that into the chat window and we'll get those addressed towards the end of the session altogether. So that was the requirement from the licensing perspective, that you need phone system or Microsoft phone resource account license for your auto attendant and call queue, and all your agents needs to be enterprise voice enabled, either with Microsoft calling plan or with direct routing or your Teams phone mobile or the operator connect. For operator connect, you need to have your uh, PSTN services coming in from the respective operators, or in case of your Teens Phone Mobile, the 5 operators that we have currently on the list, you can use either one of them as well. The only difference between this one and the operator connect or direct routing would be the Microsoft calling plan licenses that I showcased you, that would not be required altogether. So this is my manager account. The manager account is enabled with a calling plan. This is the license. This is the emergency address that's associated with the user altogether. Let's look into voice. Let's deep dive into the auto attendant and call queue. Okay, now with the auto attendant, this is the auto attendant configuration that looks like. And the auto attendant is the first thing is the name of the auto attendant. That we have given best life auto attendant. We have an DID. This is the DID. So anyone wants to make a call to my auto attendant or reach my IVR, they can reach my IVR on this phone number. And here is my operator. So Alex is the operator of my organization, and then your respective time zone. Now, be mindful, the time zone of any auto attendant is really critical, because based on the time zone, your region and your business hours and non-business hours are defined altogether. So defining the time zone is one of the critical things that we do. Languages, or which language you want the operator and your auto attendant to have your text to speech, and then voice input options. So in voice input, you have, like, instead of requesting the users or the clients who are calling in to your auto attendant or the IVR, they can even put in voice input. One drawback of voice input is if your client or the end users are speaking in the backend, um, you would the IVR catches that, and then it says that that option is not available constantly. So we need to be really mindful before enabling this voice input option altogether. Let's look into the call flows and how the call flow is. Here I have various options. I can set has no greetings and then have the custom greeting message here, but I have added a small greeting here. Welcome to Best Life New York office. And then rest of the greeting messages are here. Additionally, you can also do an upload also from any of your files. You can upload an audio file altogether in the form of an MP3, WAV, and WMA format. So all these 3 formats are supported, and the file size should be less than 5 meg. So that's the only caveat towards that. I'll have to add this back. Welcome to Best Life New York office. And then you have again, you have the call routing option. What do you want to do? You want to disconnect the call, you want to redirect the call. I'll just copy this and keep it, and we'll see what redirect options I have. I have various different options. I can do a redirection to directly to a person in the organization, voice app, external phone number, or directly route any calls to the voicemails. Even those options are possible as well. But in our case, we'll use the same set of options. And then recently, Microsoft added this option of force listen. So force listen is an option that allows the so at times when you dial to an IVR, if you're calling in for any kind of a support to your telco, you know to how you would be able to navigate it. Press 1 for the support, and then you try to navigate it much more quicker rather than listening to the whole greeting message. But if you have this option of force greetings, force listen turned on, in that case, the user would not, or the customer or the end user who is dialing in onto this IVR would not be able to navigate until and unless the whole menu options are placed. So here in my scenario, I have press 1 for the HR team, press 2 for the IT support team, press 3 for the security team, and then at any time press 0 for the operator assistance. I also have dial by name functionality enabled, which we'll talk about shortly, and then the call can get routed accordingly to the person in the organization. So here, the first option is the operator. Now, in option 2 and option 1, like I mentioned, it's getting redirected to the HR and the IT support team. Behind these options, I have a call queue. So this is my call queue that I have already predefined here in this scenario, and the calls would get routed to this call queue. In this individual call queues, I already have 6 or 8 agents. Whoever is available at any point when the call comes in can answer the call altogether. So both options are available here. I can redirect and calls to the voice app. I can redirect the call to a voicemail, external phone number. I have my support, my HR support or my IT support to an external PSTN number. I have outsourced that to a third party. I can even redirect those calls to that external phone numbers as well. Similarly, if I have a small store or I have a retail organization and we have stores, and due to a snow weather or due to the weather condition, there is a heavy snow and our stores are closed, I can have those customized announcement played as well. It can be a text to speech, what we call as TTS, or you can even do a similar kind of an announcement, upload the wave MP3 file format in 5 meg or less. My third option is routing to a security team. So I am routing it to Alex again, uh, a person in the organization, and then I'm routing it to Alex. Your directory search option is enabled where I am using the dial by name. So anyone can dial by name into any user account in my organizations. If I want to exclude any users from dial by name, that is something I can define here in my dial scope altogether. So in dial scope, I can define which users would be included or which users would be excluded from your complete list altogether. So that's something that you define in your dial scope. One thing to be mindful of dial by name functionality is if you have 5 people of same first name, more than 5 people of same first name, then dial by name functionality doesn't work, and then you have to use your dial by extension capability. This is one limitation of the auto attendant that we recently found out, that if you have more than 5 people with the same name in the organization, so like Alex, if you have 5 Alex in the same organizations, in most of the enterprise organizations that's the case. And to the extent, even if you have duplicate accounts, organizations, I have seen scenarios where organization have a one personal account for using Teams, and then you have a secondary account for um, managing your administration or managing the admin center. Those 2 accounts are counted as 2 specific accounts. So that's something that we need to be mindful of in both the scenarios. Um, Earlier, while we are configuring our general inform, I did mention that business hours and non-business hours are bifurcated, and the time zone becomes really critical. So based on the time zone that I have defined here, it comes in 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern business hours is what I defined there. So 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern hours would be my business hours, and any call coming in at 8:29 would be a non-business hours call, and any call coming in at 5:01 would be a non-business hours and would be treated as after hours call flow in this scenario. So in after hours, I'm redirecting the call directly to a voicemail, and notifying my customers or my users that they have reached out during the after business hours. They can leave a voicemail and our representatives can call back whenever they can look at the voicemail respectively. Um, Here in after hours, you have the same site of configurations that you can do. Right now I am redirecting a call to the voicemail, um, and I am turning on the transcription and skipping the system message. The system message like you get in is please leave a voicemail after the tone. That message can be skipped, so that's something that I'm skipping here. And then you have play menu options, similar options like I had in my regular business hours call flow. I can have same set of options in my after business hours call flow as well. At times enterprise organizations do have it, like during the business hours the calls comes in the North America regions, and after business hours it goes into the offshore team supporting the customers. So those kind of scenarios can be supported seamlessly in these options altogether. So business hours, non-business hours, we looked at it. Let's look at holidays, because in this time frame, the holiday schedule also becomes really critical. So in holidays, again, I'm redirecting the calls to my uh, regular voicemail, and then people can come back and answer during the next business day. They can come back and respond back to all the voicemails that have been left. Again, a scenario can always be available wherein you can redirect the calls to your offshore team, and you have different set of menu options that can be created as well. Similarly, like the Thanksgiving and the other holidays are ongoing today and tomorrow, call can be configured separately. Here you can have multiple holiday schedules that can be added, because in holidays there is a limit of defining only 12 holidays. So you can have 12 in one, and then you can have next 8 or 6 or whatever is the count of holidays that you have. If you have 12 holidays, that's well and good. If you have more than 12, that is 18 or 24 holidays that needs to be defined, you can add those, and based on that you can have those treatments added separately. So you can define the second holiday, add those holidays, and then define what and how the treatment would look like altogether. So all those options are available as well. Like I mentioned, we can also skip certain set of users from my dial scope as well. So either I can include it or I can exclude it. So here I can include it. So right now I have like all online users would be included. I can set a custom group and include it. And then similarly, a custom group can be excluded as well. So organizations at times they want to exclude their executives to be available in that dial scope. They should not be able to dial by name specifically, but if you are using dial by extension, people should know the extension of your executives as well. We talked about the resource accounts, the Microsoft Teams phones resource account. So this is the place where you add your resource accounts and the DID associated with individual resource accounts altogether. So this is the resource account that I have created. And then this is my phone number. That's the same number that you saw earlier in my general info tab as well. So this is where I showcase the or this is from where that phone number was picking up. Any questions or queries that we have in terms right now? Okay, no problems. Let's get into the call queue configurations. Let's look at one of the call queue that I have. Let's look at the HR call queue. So the first and the most important thing in the call queue is giving a name to the call queue. Okay, and then uh, this based on this name, both in auto attendant and call queue, this is the name that you define, but this is the name of the resource account is really critical. Why is it critical? Any users who are trying to search or dial to the call queue internally using the Microsoft Teams application, they would search this resource account name to make any calls to that call queue. So all those options are available. Again, my call queue has its own direct phone number as well. So in case someone wants to come in via the call queue or via the auto attendant, that option is available. And then if someone wants to dial the call queue directly, they can dial that this phone number altogether as well. Like in my presentation deck, I mentioned that the outbound caller ID can be manipulated. So this is the place where I'm manipulating my outbound caller ID. I have kept the caller ID of my auto attendant or my main IVR. That's the caller ID that the agents can use while making the outbound calls. Language is something that we have predefined. The language has been set as English. Now, here as well, the greeting message, text to speech. So I am because I have a direct line coming in as well. That's the reason why I have a welcome message. So this welcome message is applicable for both the users coming in from the auto attendant redirected into the call queue and the users coming in directly into the call queue. So the same greeting message would be played. This greeting message is text to speech. So earlier it was a female voice that used to be always constant, but then Microsoft have make some enhancement wherein you can now pick and choose whether you want a male voice versus a female voice. That can be configured using the Microsoft PowerShell. By default, all the call queues will have a female voice and all the auto attendant would have a male voice, but that customizations can be configured from that PowerShell module as well. Similarly, coming to music on hold can be customized. Default music options are available from Microsoft directly. But in case if you want to customize the music on hold to any of announcement or your marketing things that you need to do, you can customize the voicemails and you can customize the music on hold and add up separately. Now, I have two options of adding the users or my agents into the call queue. I have selected the first option, that's choosing the complete team. So I'll go ahead and cancel it and then I'll show you how we choose the team. But here is the options that I have currently. That is, let's take an example. I'll go ahead and add Alex manually. So I can go ahead and add Alex manually as well. I can go ahead and add my other users manually. So this goes added manually. You can also choose, you can also add users and groups as well together. So you can do a mix and match combination here. But when you add a channel here, that channel becomes all the agents or all the users who are part of that channel. So I'll look for a Contoso channel. And then in Contoso channel, I have HR support team. So HR support team is one of the channel that I have created within this Contoso as an account altogether. And then this is a team that is a Contoso team, and under that I have created a channel. So all the members who are part of this channel would then automatically become my agents and would be a part of my team altogether. Conference mode is like ensuring that the agents gets connected to the users at the earliest. Routing mechanism. So you have multiple different routing mechanism that's available. The attendant routing, serial routing, round robin, and longest idle. Longest idle is like the user who is or the agent who is into the queue for the longest time would be answering the call first. Round robin, one call at each person. Serial routing, it would check whichever is the user agent available. If one agent is available, that agent would get constantly all the calls. And routing, attendant routing is like sending calls to all the users at one go. Presence-based routing is really important capability as well, because if a user or if an agent is already on a call, or if the agent is already answering the call, is in a do not disturb mode or has opted out of the queue. So based on the presence, the calls can be provided or can be sent to the agents. Presence-based routing is really an important feature. And then you have agents can opt out and opt in of the call queue. So if they have already answered one call and then they want to take get some water, or they want to get some take a bio break or something like that, they can opt out for that much specific seconds, and then or minutes can come back and opt in back. As a manager of a call queue, you can keep a peek view which agents are available, have they opted out or opted into the call queue. There has also been a request that I need to know how many agents are opted in, so that's something that Microsoft is working upon, that how many active opt-in users are available, and then we can take it from there on, so that manager keeps on getting how many seconds the agent was in opt-in scenarios and opt-out scenarios, so that a detailed report is also available for this. So call agent alert time. So agent alert time is like the maximum number of seconds or the seconds time frame where the calls would be ringing at the agent's desk before being passed on to the next agent. So that's what it. This ties down to the presence based routing. If an agent is already on a call or if the agent is in a do not disturb mode, that alert or that 20-second of the call should not go to that agents, and then it saves those times altogether. Call overflow. So if I have maximum number of 10 calls that's waiting into my queue, when the 11th call comes in, my first call gets overflowed to a voicemail. Now, one of the peculiar feature which is added up here is you can send it to a shared voicemail, or you can send it to a personal voicemail. The personal voicemail can be the voicemail of a manager who manages this queue. So if a manager keeps seeing notification coming across, oh, all the voicemails are shared, the voicemails for the call queue, it alerts the manager that someone is not there in the queue or the call volume is on the higher side. Similarly, an external phone numbers, the calls can be routed to the external phone number, or it can also be routed to a different app or a voice app. Or in uh, Microsoft technology, we call it as a voice app, and auto attendant or a call queue is always called as a voice app or a resource account, or you can even redirect up to a person in the organization. So it can also be redirected to the manager directly. So all those options are available here. Okay, we'll go that. You can again upload a custom file, or you can use the text to speech feature functionality here as well. This is something that we spoke about overflow. What if a call is waiting into my queue for more than 10 minutes? I can even come down to and say that, okay, if the call is waiting into the queue for more than 5 minutes, what should happen? If the 5 minutes threshold reaches, the call goes to the voicemail. The same set of options that you had it in the overflow is the same set of options that you have it in the you have it here as well: external phone number, person in the organization, voice app, and personal voicemail and a shared voicemail. In our scenarios, we are redirecting all the calls to a shared voicemail for the organization. So that's it with regards to the call queues and auto attendant. I did make some changes to it. Now let's look into it how the peak view looks like for a manager or for the agents. For the manager or for the agents would only be able to see that which users are available, which users are not available into the queue altogether. So uh, this is my channel that I have added up. Let's look at the channel details. If I go to manage channels, I have all my analytics, how many users are there, how many users are enabled with the telephony system. And then when you come here, you get this additional options of calls here. So here is your options of opt-in, opt-out. This is where your agents can opt in, opt out. And when your agents make an outbound call, 8919190. This is the option that you can see the agents can get as an additional option while they are making the outbound calls, whether they want to call it as themselves or they want to call it as the auto attendant DID. So that is the caller ID manipulations that your agents would be able to see. So this is how the peak view would look like, whether you are looking in from the agent perspective or from the manager standpoint. Um, Manager would be able to see which agents are in the queue and which agents are outside the queue. So if you are away from the queue or away from your desk, manager can send you a immediate at the rate message as well. That okay, why you are away? Can you please be opted into the queue and be available as well? That's something with regards to the queue and what available things are. Here is something that we would look into the reporting capability. So here is how you would be able to see your call queue reports, how many calls came in, total calls, uh, how many seconds it took for the calls to be answered, how many seconds it took for the call to be abandoned. So here, if you look at it, two calls was transferred to the agent and then two calls were abandoned as well. So you have both the reporting that's available here. None of the call got overflow or transferred, so the call came in, but during the configurations. So here you have those. Now, call would be abandoned or would specifically, since I don't see anything in the call overflow or timeout, that means that my users or my customers who called in did not wait for 5 minutes. The customized overflow timeout that I have set, a call overflow or the timeout that I have set here. So they didn't wait till the customer didn't or the end user did not wait for the complete 5 minutes before and they disconnected the call themselves. So that's what the reports showcase all about. This is more from the agent perspective that what is the average timeout, average seconds the agent has been speaking, when was the last call they took, how many hours have they been into the queues, all those details. And which calls, how many seconds, distributions, all those things are available in the reporting capabilities. So that's what I had to cover up in terms of reporting, in terms of the agent peak view, and in terms of auto attendant and call queue as well. Any questions that you have, do add those into the chat window and we can get those addressed as well. Okay, let's switch back to our presentation. I'll come back to our presentation. So that was in terms of our demo. Uh, and then in case if you want to reach out to me on any of the social media handles, be it LinkedIn, Twitter, you can reach out to me. Um, and then you have my email address. So I'll thank everyone. Thank you for joining in and listening to my session today. And I'll also thank the organizer for the event for making it a successful event as well.